Hello everybody, welcome in. Today I preview and give 5 predictions for each of the 6 2025 through 26 NFL wildcard matchups, and I give my prediction for the entire postseason bracket, including who I think is going to the Super Bowl and who's going to win the Super Bowl. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm first going to look at the visiting team's offense against the home team's defense. I'm going to give 2 predictions pertaining to that matchup, and then I will switch and look at the home team's offense against the visiting team's defense and give 2 predictions for how I think the units match up. So those will be 4 predictions, and then my last prediction is who I think is going to cover the spread and win the game. So the first wildcard game on Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox is the LA Rams at the Panthers. The Panthers won the NFC South this season with a losing record. The NFC South, very weak division this year. The Panthers went 8-9 in the regular season, but one of those 8 wins came against this Rams team at home in Week 13, 31-28, in a game where they got 3 takeaways and didn't turn the ball over one time. On the other side, the Rams, second in the NFC West this year with a record of 12-5. I think for a good portion of this season, the Rams have looked like the best team in the NFL, although they did slide a little bit in the last couple of weeks, although they have been without Devontae Adams in those games, the losses at Seattle and at Atlanta. I still think when this Rams team is playing its A game, they're the best team in the NFL. So first, the Rams offense against the Panthers defense. As I said, the Rams turned the ball over 3 times in the previous meeting against Carolina and lost the game by only 3 points. So my first prediction is that the Rams are going to turn the ball over 0 times. I think that the Rams will pay attention to that this week and make sure that what happened in the most recent meeting doesn't happen again. And I expect them to turn the ball over 0 times. Also, Matthew Stafford historically has elevated his game in the postseason. He really struggled in the previous meeting with 2 interceptions, one in the end zone, the other a pick 6. So I expect the Rams to minimize the turnovers this week. Also, I think the Rams will go over 126 rushing yards in this game. The Rams this season have averaged 126 yards rushing, and I think they're going to have one of their better games running the ball, in large part because the Panthers' run defense has really struggled in recent weeks, and for the season, they are 27th in EPA per rush and 21st in yards per rush. And the Rams are good at running the ball. So I think this is a game where the Rams are going to be able to run the ball very well, and they're going to score a lot of points. Now, for the Panthers' offense against the Rams' defense, I think that the Panthers are going to be trailing for a good portion of this game. And so they're going to go over their season average in passing yards, which is 179 passing yards per game. I think they go over that, and I think that some of their outside receivers might match up well with the Rams secondary. But as a result of that, because I think they're going to be trailing for most of the game, I think the Panthers are going to go under their season average for rushing yards, which is 110 yards per game. I think they're going to go under that. I think the Rams are going to be able to limit Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle. And then lastly, who do I think wins this game? As I said, I think the Panthers are going to be trailing for most of it. I do think the Rams win this game. They're 10.5-point favorites on the road. I think they cover that. I think they win 31-17. Next up at 8 p.m. Eastern on Saturday on Amazon Prime Video, the classic rivalry game between the Packers and the Bears. The 7-seeded Packers against the 2-seeded Bears. But weirdly, even though the Packers are a much lower seed, they are favored to win this game, with only 9 wins, I should add. The Packers are on a 4-game losing streak headed into the playoffs. Of course, the losing streak started when Micah Parsons got injured against the Broncos. Jordan Love got injured against the Bears. I think Jordan Love should be back in this game, but he hasn't played in a couple weeks, although the Packers essentially treated last week's game in Minnesota as a bye week, so I think they'll be fresh and rested. So, first, the Packers' offense against the Bears' defense. My first prediction, the Packers have averaged 120 rushing yards a game. I think they will go over that. This Bears defense gives up a lot of yards on the ground. The Packers were able to run the ball on the Bears in each of the first 2 meetings. I think that the weather in this game is going to be really conducive to running the ball and not as conducive to passing the ball. So I do think the Packers are going to eat up a lot of clock and go over 120 rushing yards in this game. My next prediction. I think the Packers turn the ball over at least one time. The Bears' defense this season has really lived off takeaways. And the last time these teams played in Week 16 on that Saturday night where the Bears won in overtime, the momentum flipped when the Packers turned the ball over in the red zone. The Bears' defense has been good at getting turnovers all year, and I think they get one in this game. So, to switch sides, the Bears' offense against the Packers' defense. The Packers' defense has really struggled the last 4 weeks since Micah Parsons got hurt. They've been giving up an average of 312 yards per game this season, but in the last 4 weeks, they've given up more than that every time. So I think the Bears are going to gain over 312 yards of offense. But I think a lot of those yards are going to come on the ground. So because of that, I think that the Bears are going to go under their season average of passing yards, which is 225. And then lastly, who do I think is going to win this game? I really think this is a coin flip, honestly. But since Jordan Love hasn't played the last few weeks, and Jordan Love in his postseason career, he's played 3 games. One was a great game in Dallas, and 2 terrible games in San Francisco in the rain and in Philly. I think the common denominator there is the weather for the game. In Dallas, obviously that's a controlled climate. It's a dome. That was a game he was great. But the 2 bad weather games, the game in Philly and the game in San Francisco in the rain, he really struggled. And this is Chicago, Illinois in the winter months, so I think there's going to be a lot of wind. And I don't think Jordan Love's going to be able to do much through the air. I think this is super close, but I do like the Bears as home underdogs to win this game. I'm going to say they win it 20-17. On to the Sunday games. Begins with, in my opinion, the best game of the weekend, with Buffalo, the 6-seeded Bills, at 12-5 against the 3-seeded Jaguars at 13-4. Buffalo was one of the Super Bowl favorites before the year, and it's been a rocky year, but I think they're playing some of their best ball going into the playoffs. My biggest concern for them, honestly, is a foot injury that Josh Allen may or may not still be dealing with, one he sustained a couple weeks ago in the Bills' win at Cleveland, and I thought clearly affected him the following week against the Eagles. He only took 1 snap last week, so for my money, he's basically coming off a week of rest. We'll see if that hampers him at all. And this Jaguars team, since their bye, has been incredible. They're on an 8-game win streak. They are destroying bad teams. They destroyed the Chargers. They destroyed the Broncos. Those are 2 good teams. And they're on fire coming into this game. And honestly, as someone who thinks the Bills are going to go to the Super Bowl, I thought this was the matchup they should have tried to avoid in the first round of the playoffs. But here they are. They're going to meet in the first round of the playoffs. And spoiler alert, the team that I think wins this game is going to go to the Super Bowl. So to start with the Bills' offense against the Jaguars' defense, my first prediction, the Bills, this season, their bread and butter has been their run game, but I think this is a game where they're going to get a lot of passing yards, simply because the Jaguars have been arguably the best rushing defense in the NFL this season. One weird stat, I don't think they've given up a 75-yard rusher this year. They're like the 3rd team since the turn of the millennium to do that. So the Jaguars have given up an average of 217 passing yards per game. I do think Josh Allen, he typically elevates his game in the postseason. I think that the Bills go over that, especially in a pretty good weather, like 60 degrees in Jacksonville in January. On the other side of the same coin, the Bills have averaged 160 rushing yards per game. I think they go well under that. As I said, this Jaguars team, their run defense has been incredible. I think they're really going to limit James Cook. Josh Allen could potentially hurt them with his scrambling, but I don't think that alone is going to be able to get the Bills to 160 rushing yards. So I'm put me down for the Bills to have under 160 rushing yards, and I think the Bills are going to move the ball through the air in this game. On the other side, the Jaguars' offense against the Bills' defense. The Jaguars' offense strength has been their passing game, but this Bills' run defense has been overall pretty bad throughout the season. Although I think they've been better in recent weeks, they're still vulnerable. The Jaguars have averaged 115 rushing yards per game this year. I think they go over that. Between Trevor Lawrence's scrambling and Travis Etienne on the ground, Bashal Putin as well, I think that, especially since the Bills are a better pass defense, the Jaguars will have more opportunities to move the ball on the ground. So put me down for the Jaguars to have over 115 rushing yards in this game. My next prediction, I'm not going to specify a quantity of turnovers. But what I am going to predict is that the Bills will win the turnover battle in this game. Josh Allen has been one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history at mitigating turnovers in the postseason. But I'm not going to predict that the Bills turn the ball over 0 times because this Jags team has been really good at getting takeaways, specifically interceptions. But I think the Bills defense, they've been near the top of the league in takeaways for each of the past several years. I think that the Bills win the turnover battle in this game, whether it's 1-0 or 2-1 or potentially 2-0. I think the Bills can get an interception off Trevor Lawrence. They can force a fumble. And then lastly, who do I think wins this game? The Bills are a slight favorite on the road. I think this is another toss-up. I do think the Bills pull out this win. This is a really tough matchup. This Jags team is excellent. I think if the Jaguars win this game, they're going to the Super Bowl. But when I did my postseason bubble tiers, I had the Bills in the Super Bowl. I think because Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow are not in the postseason, those are the teams that stopped them. I think that they're going to get this done against Jacksonville and move on to the divisional round. The next game on Sunday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox, 49ers at Eagles. The Eagles are the 3 seed, the defending Super Bowl champions. An incredible defense, but a wildly inconsistent and untrustworthy offense. The 49ers have had a lot of defensive injuries this year, but they've been able to hold their heads above water, which is really impressive, but I thought they may have been exposed a little bit last week at home against Seattle. They come in as a 6 seed. They're a warm weather team going across the country into a cold weather game. My first prediction for the 49ers offense against the Eagles defense, I think the Eagles hold the 49ers under their season average, well under their season average in offensive yards. I think they go under 314. Bottom line, I think the 49ers are really going to struggle to move the ball in this game. Again, it's a warm weather team, long flight going into Philadelphia where the weather is going to be cold. I don't know if Trent Williams is going to play in this game, and if he doesn't, I think they're really going to struggle to move the ball. And in addition to that, I think the Eagles are going to force not 1, but 2 turnovers. Brock Purdy has small hands for a quarterback. The Eagles are good at forcing fumbles. I think the Eagles are going to get at least 1 fumble recovery and maybe an interception. Bottom line, I think the Eagles defense is going to dominate the 49ers offense. The Eagles offense against the 49ers defense is a lot tougher to project. I do think that with the weather in Philadelphia and with how inconsistent their passing game has been, I think that the Eagles are going to want to run the football more against the 49ers, who've really struggled to defend the run. So by that, I am going to say the Eagles have under their season average of passing yards, which is 194. But on the other side of the same coin, 49ers have really struggled to defend the run in this game, in this season, with all their defensive injuries. So I think the Eagles are going to run for over 117 yards of offense between Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts' scrambles. And then lastly, who do I think is going to win this game? I think the Eagles pretty clearly have the edge here. The Eagles are favored by 3.5 at home. I think they cover that. I think they win by 10 points, 23-13. In a game where there's not a lot of yards of offense, but I think the Eagles control the clock and their defense dominates. Next up, on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, the last game of the Sunday games, the 7-seeded LA Chargers against the number 2 seed and AFC East champion New England Patriots. So First, the Chargers offense against the Patriots defense. The Patriots run defense metrically, they're 16th in EPA per rush, 10th in yards allowed per rush, but their run defense has really struggled in recent weeks. The first half of the season, they were like the best run defense in the league, but since the Milton Williams injury, I think he'll be back in this game, but still, I think that the Chargers are going to rush for over 122 yards. That's their season average. I think they have one of their better games running the ball. I think they're going to want to control the clock in this game. Put me down for the Chargers having over 122 rushing yards. My next prediction, I think that the Patriots are going to force at least 2 turnovers. This is, I'll believe it when I see it, with Justin Herbert in big games. Justin Herbert's played in 2 playoff games. He was really bad in both of them. He played in a win-and-you're-in game like 4 years ago against the Raiders, lost that game too. He had 4 turnovers against the Texans in the wild card round last year. The Chargers, going from West Coast to East Coast, an indoor team playing outdoors on the road. I think that Justin Herbert is going to struggle in this game. So I think the Patriots are going to get at least 2 turnovers in this game. On the other side of the coin, with the Patriots offense against the Chargers defense, the Chargers pass defense is really good. They are 6th in EPA per pass allowed this season. Yards per pass doesn't tell as good a story. They're 14th, but they're giving up an average of 180 passing yards per game this season. Drake May's been incredible this year, and I think the Patriots go over 180 passing yards in this game. On the other side of the same coin, the Patriots have struggled to run the ball this year. The Patriots 25th in EPA per rush this postseason. Yards per rush tell a better story, 14th. But the Chargers' rush defense has been really good, 4th in EPA per rush. I don't think the Patriots are going to be able to run the ball in this game. The Patriots have averaged 105 rushing yards per game this year. I think they go well under that. I think they have one of their worst games of the year running the ball. Lastly, who do I think wins this game? The Patriots are 3-point favorites at home. A lot of people like the Chargers to win this game, but I'm going to go with the Patriots. I think they win by a touchdown. They cover 3.5 at home. Again, I'll believe it when I see it with Justin Herbert in big playoff games. Again, these are previous teams, but this century, the Patriots have had the Chargers number in the postseason with Brady versus Rivers. Brady went 3-0 against Rivers in the playoffs. I think the Patriots improved to 4-0 in the playoffs against the Los Angeles Chargers / San Diego Chargers this century. The last game of the weekend, the last wildcard game on Monday night at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and ABC. The 5-seeded Houston Texans at the 4-seed Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers won the AFC North this year in the last game of the year against the Ravens, 26-24 on a missed field goal. That's kind of how the Steelers have won games these past few years. And the Houston Texans are 12-5, second in the AFC South, behind Jacksonville. The Texans, for my money, have probably the best defense in the NFL with a really shaky offense. The Steelers metrically aren't good at much things other than taking the ball away, but they do have Aaron Rodgers, who has a lot of postseason experience. So, first, the Texans offense against the Steelers defense. My first prediction, the Texans have averaged 218 passing yards per game this season. That's not very good. I think they have one of their best games of the year passing the ball, in large part because I don't think the Texans are going to be able to run the ball in this game. Their rushing offense has been very poor this season, 30th in the NFL in EPA per rush, 28th in yards per rush. I think they're going to have to move the ball through the air, and I think they're going to have success doing it because Pittsburgh's pass defense is mediocre, 16th in EPA per pass, 22nd in yards per pass. The Steelers' defense is. So put me down for the Texans to have over 218 passing yards. My other prediction for the Texans' offense against the Steelers' defense. The Steelers' defense has been near the top of the league in takeaways the past few years. They haven't been able to get those takeaways in the postseason, but I do think the Steelers are going to be able to get some takeaways in this game. I think they're going to force at least 2 of them. The Houston Texans are an indoor team, from Houston, Texas. This is going to be a cold weather game. I think that the Steelers are going to be able to get a couple of turnovers, takeaways against this Texans offense. On the other side, with the Steelers offense against the Texans defense, I do not think that the Steelers are going to be able to move the ball through the air at all. This Texans pass defense is probably the best in the NFL. First in the NFL in EPA per pass and sixth in yards per pass. The Texans' run defense is also very good, but I don't think they're as good as their pass defense. They're allowing an average of 94 rushing yards per game. I think the Steelers run for more than that. I think they go over 94 rushing yards in this game. On the other side of the same coin, the Steelers have averaged 185 passing yards this season. Again, I do not think the Steelers are going to be able to move the ball through the air at all against the Texans. So put me down for the Steelers to have under 185 passing yards. And then who do I think wins this game? Honestly, I think this is very close to a coin flip. The Texans are 3.5-point favorites on the road. For the better part of this season, the Texans have been the better team, although their defense has been a little bit leaky of late. Although Kamari Lassiter, he got injured against the Chargers, missed last week. Riley Leonard and the Colts carved them up a little bit. He'll be able to come back in this game. So the Texans' pass defense should be better than it was last week. But I saw this stat that not only have the Houston Texans never won a road playoff game in their franchise history, and it's an indoor team going outdoors on the road, Mike Tomlin at home on Monday Night Football, I think I saw, is undefeated. So the Steelers are 3.5-point underdogs at home. I know a week ago when I did the postseason bubble tiers, I didn't give the Steelers any chance of winning a playoff game. Honestly, I think they're going to win this game. I really do. I think it's ugly, low-scoring, Steelers style. Again, I think the Steelers are going to have much less margin for error. I think the Texans are the better team. But I think the Steelers are going to be able to force a couple of turnovers, and the offense is going to be able to do just enough. They're going to be able to run the ball. I think they're going to win this game 20-18 and upset the Texans. So those are my predictions and picks for the wild card round of the playoffs. I will do a video like this for the divisional championship and Super Bowl rounds as well. But to recap my picks for the wild card round, as I have the playoff bracket pulled up here, I like the Bears to beat the Packers. I like the Eagles to beat the 49ers, to crush them, in fact. I like the Rams to steamroll the Panthers. I like the Patriots to beat the Chargers. I like the I like the Steelers to upset the Texans. And I like the Bills to beat the Jaguars. I will just give the rest of my playoff bracket right now. And of course, this will change if I'm wrong about one or more of my wildcard picks. For the Rams at the Seahawks, I think if the Rams have Devontae Adams back, they would win that game. I think they would move on to the NFC Championship game. For Eagles at Bears, the Bears steamrolled the Eagles in Philadelphia earlier this year. I think this would be a closer game. The Eagles are certainly the more experienced team. But I would ride with the Bears to beat the Eagles for the second time, this time at home, and go to their first NFC Championship game in 15 years. On the other side of the bracket, 6th-seeded Buffalo at top first-seeded Denver. I would take the Bills to win this game. I think the Bills have a better quarterback. They played the Broncos in the playoffs last year and steamrolled them. I do think the Broncos are a better team than they were last year, but I think the Bills are still a bad matchup for them. Pittsburgh at New England. I don't think that the Steelers' fairy tale would continue another week. I would take the Patriots and Drake May to win at home. So the NFC and AFC championship games would be the LA Rams at Chicago, Buffalo at New England. And then for the conference championship games, Buffalo at New England, I would take the Bills to win. Oh, no, pardon me. Sorry, I went out of order. I would take the Rams to win in Chicago and go to the Super Bowl. I think they're a more experienced team. And then the Bills at New England, as I said, I would take the Bills to win in New England. I think they're the more experienced team, and I think they match up well with the Patriots. So this would set up the LA Rams versus the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl, in Super Bowl 60. And lastly, who do I think would win this Super Bowl? Before the season, my pick was the Bills to win the Super Bowl, but if this is the matchup, I do think the Rams would win this game. I just think the Rams have a better roster than the Bills. They have a better coach than the Bills. They have at least a comparable quarterback to the Bills in the postseason. So if I had to guess right now, I think that two wildcard teams are going to meet in the Super Bowl, and I think the Rams are going to win it. So that'll be all for today. Thank you again for tuning in. Please leave a like, subscribe, and share the video if you enjoyed, and I will see you next week.